right, guys, welcome back to my podcast, the show where we dive deep into the world of real estate, leadership, and building powerful partnerships that move businesses forward. I'm your host, Scott Coomer, and today we've got a very special guest joining us. We're sitting down with international real estate agent Nathaly Salas, someone who's built an incredible reputation working across borders, navigating diverse markets, and creating opportunities for both clients and agents around the globe. Whether you're curious about how to expand internationally or you want to learn what it takes to really succeed in today's connected market, you're going to get a ton of value from this conversation. If today's episode sparks ideas for you and you're an agent who wants to explore bigger opportunities, we'd love to connect. Whether you want to partner with me and my team or tap into Nathaly's international expertise, there's a place for you at the table. Reach out to us directly. Either call or text either of us with information below or set up a Zoom meeting with my calendar link below. Now let's get started. All right. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm here today with a very special guest that I'm excited to talk about, just because she's done so much in the real estate space. So I got Nathaly on this podcast today. Nathaly, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for hopping on.
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm excited to chat with you.
Awesome. Well, as always, I was kind of curious on a real estate agent's experience on what got him into real estate, and kind of like their beginning, kind of their beginning story of real estate. So I don't know if you kind of want to take us through, kind of your past experiences and kind of what got us here today.
Sure. And I'm excited to share the story because it starts with me and struggling to buy abroad. And that's kind of where my journey started with the real estate international piece. I'm based in Chicago. I've been based here for 20 years. So I've done investments on the side as a buyer, as an investor, but I never went outside of the country to buy internationally until COVID happened. And when COVID happened, we were in the lockdown. Things were a little rough at home because we used to have we had to have a caregiver coming home for my mom. So when that got cut off, you had to care for your loved one, and then you had to work and you had to be stuck at home. So it was like a lot happening at home. And to me, Mexico was a solution temporarily to just get away. And when I went to Mexico, it was my mom, my sister, and I. And then when we were there, we were working remotely. So I was in corporate for many years. And at that point, I was in corporate as well. So when we were in Mexico, I loved it there. I was in the Riviera Maya. There's the beach, it's peaceful. There's nature. And I was like wondering why I live in Chicago. And I was like, this place is awesome. Why don't we live here? And then my sister and I started, maybe we can live here. If we work remotely, we can. And we can just go to Chicago whenever, we need to go to the office for one event or something. And that's when we started our transition of thinking outside the box. So when we started the buying process in Mexico, in the Riviera Maya, it was a little bit of a struggle because there's nobody who teaches you how. It's more like you have to figure out, you have to find your way, you have to ask a lot of questions, ask many people the same question to see if they're telling you the truth or if you're getting to to whatever is true for the market. So we ended up buying a pre-construction project next to where we were staying. And it was a gated community next to a resort near the beach, so you can walk to the beach. So it was perfect. And then we're looking to find price comparables because you think like an American, you're like, hey, I want to see what else is out there. But we worked with 3 different agents and they couldn't, find a way to help us. And at this point, we needed an accessible unit that, you can push the wheelchair through. So they couldn't, either they show us something outside of our budget or they will show us something with stairs that had no elevator. So we were struggling like, are we speaking a different language? Because we speak Spanish fluently, it's not like it was a language barrier. But that was when the journey started. I was like, wait, if they don't, they're not professional, they don't know what they're doing, or I'm talking to the wrong people. And that's when my curiosity started to document my process, the buying process. And I start, asking questions to attorneys. I asked the realtor. I had 3 different agents I work with. I asked, other agents outside of that too, to make sure that I was kind of getting to the right price. Because to me, I was like, I want to get to the right price. And I don't want to, pay US prices in Mexico because when they see you like you're foreign or you speak some English, then there's, some assumptions that are made and they think they have a bunch of money in the bank. And I'm like, even if I did, I don't want to spend it all in one unit. So that was kind of the starting of it. My curiosity started with my own experience, my own struggle, trying to buy abroad. And when I was through the process, I was like, many people are encountering the same thing because I might not be the only one that is, in this position. And then as we were meeting other people in the community in Riviera Maya, I was seeing a lot of expats that were kind of going through the same. And I'm like, well, there's no one person or there's no one agency that helps clients, like follow the path and the process. And at that point, 4 years ago, there wasn't. And now more people are stepping up in their game and creating content and providing education. So I think it's been a lot in the making, but it started from my personal struggle back then. So when I was in Mexico, the only issue was like, how can I operate a business here if I don't, there's no MLS? How do I know a listing is valid? How do you know a property is good or it's a good price? So when I came back to Chicago, I that's when I discovered EXP, and I did the other way around. So instead of me going, me being an agent before joining EXP, it was more like I discovered EXP and the platform technology. I'm going to go and run and get my license so I can join this platform so I can do international business. And that was kind of the behind the scenes of everything.
Nice, nice. That's yeah, it's definitely a unique journey, and I'm glad you share it too because like, me, I love traveling a lot as well too. And me and my wife always talk about every time we travel international, like, oh, I'd love to buy a house here, but then it's like you never know what needs to be done. You see people do it, but I have no idea where to start. Even being a real estate agent, you don't know what different international laws are and everything like that. So take me through when you first started getting joined EXP. Obviously, you found the platform. You ended up joining EXP. Did you get into real estate like full time right away, or did you kind of start out part time, or what was that journey like? And then how did you start exploring different international markets? Like, what made you kind of because I know you've done a lot of different, talk to a lot of different agents, different international markets. Kind of what does that look like?
So yeah, for at the beginning was I just wanted to have a solution, a technology solution for the problem that I had, which was connecting
Mhm.
two countries. So to me, it was like, let's connect Mexico to the US and see what's the best way to do it. And my journey went through like, how do I make it happen while keeping the client safe?
Mhm.
Because I mean, unless if the client is going to lose money, I mean, it's not a something feasible. You don't want your client risking your client anywhere, not in the US, not in Mexico, nowhere around the world. So when I did my license, I had to go and do my transactions in Chicago first, right? I had to get my deals under my belt and get some experience because I cannot talk about real estate unless I'm doing transactions. So at the beginning, it was very slow because I was learning how to do things from zero as a new process. But my background is in technology, so I loved solving everything with technology or automation or something. And I didn't transition to full-time international real estate until the beginning of 2024. So it's been a year and a half full-time in real estate and 4 years kind of like I was in corporate. I had two jobs, right? My regular job and I had the real estate side gig for me because I was studying, I was testing. And then after I got some deals under my belt, I felt more comfortable. And then at that point, I was ready kind of to leave, to jump, all in January 2024. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 2023. It's been more than time. So then at that point, I was like, okay, it's all or nothing. I'm going to go all in. So I was able to travel more. I didn't have to be tied to a schedule, 9 to 5, Central Time. So I was able to go to Asia. I was able to go to India. I was able to go to Dubai and then all, Europe. So it was like, I was like, this is my dream because I had some time to really think about what I wanted to do. But at the same time, I was running out of my budget, so I need to make some sales. So it's very important for us to stay active. But it took me a couple years until I went full time. And after that, now it's like, I just don't want to go back to work to corporate anymore. But but
I
my
I
own.
definitely I definitely feel you on that, especially it's tough to go back to that 9 to 5, when you've had that kind of that freedom.
Yeah.
Now, how do you typically determine like what type of markets you want to look into, like as far as international markets, and then how do you connect with people in those markets to find out a little bit more how that process looks? I know you kind of educate people through your podcast channel and you do interview different, but how does that process look as far as determining what markets you want to look into, and then also like connecting with the agents that are out there to talk about what that process looks like to buy in their markets?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it was kind of like research based because I don't want to just travel for the sake of traveling. I mean, I like traveling, but NAR puts out a lot of research on who's migrating to where and where they're coming from, at least into the US, right?
Mhm.
So I took the research that they are publishing every single year, and it's available on the website for free. And now you can ask ChatGPT, what are the migration patterns right now and to where, and from where, and where people are going to. So then based on that, I realized that Mexico was number one for the US, Portugal, Colombia, a little bit too. Dubai, it was getting, a hot market that people are interested in. And then Dominican Republic. So those are kind of the markets that the US kind of likes to go to. Of course, Europe too, but people don't buy too many houses in Europe. They like more of the Caribbean, depending on where they're from in the US. So that was kind of my sweet spot. Since I'm from Chicago, I was like, I want to go somewhere warm. But people from Florida maybe want something different, right? Like maybe they want Europe. Californians maybe like the West Coast of Mexico instead of the East Coast. So things like that were like, what are the migration patterns? And then I realized the West Coast goes to the West Coast, the East Coast goes to the East Coast, the Midwest goes to the East Coast as well of Mexico, and then they go to Dominican Republic. The third market was Colombia. The two popular ones are DR and Mexico. And then there was a lot of hot conversations for Dubai and Portugal at that point 2 years ago. So then I started like exploring into those. I'm like, then I have to make it there. I have to be there. I wanna see what's the process like. So it was out of that first base of research, and then I went and was experimental. I went into the countries. I talked to the local agents from EXP. So that was the good thing that I had a network. It's that if you go to any country, you still can find somebody in the director and be like, hey, do you want to meet up for coffee? And I literally started those conversations as a networking piece. And my research was the same. I had my framework from Mexico as my case study for my own experience. And I just use the same thing for other countries because I ask the same questions. I have a guide that I usually share with clients and with agents. What are the basic questions you need to ask your realtor, your attorney, or anybody if you want to, find out more information about the country? So that guide is like, I take it everywhere. And then I'm like, from who can buy here? How does it work? What's the legally you need to be a citizen or not, or a resident? What are the requirements? And then what are the property taxes? What's my immigration status? If I can I stay any longer than my, visa or my entry permit? And the property management side, which is super important because if you have a property abroad, you don't want to fly because somebody broke a toilet or there is a leak, from the neighbor upstairs. First, because maybe you won't find out right away, and second, because it's far. So the property management was very important to just building the whole service. So I ended up learning from a lot of industries, a lot of things from many countries. So I kind of just took the same framework and apply it to every country I went in. And that helped me fill in the blanks of the process of each country. And also made me realize that if you've done a transaction in the US, you already know 80% of it. So it's not that difficult. People think that international real estate is this big thing out in the sky, and it's so difficult. And actually, it's not. It's very easy. If you know real estate in the US, 80% is very similar in any country. Maybe the 20% nuance that is different to the local location, legal, anything that is varies, notary, paperwork, but 80% is the same. You have the buyer, the earnest money, down payment, finance process, whether it's seller's finance or financed by a bank, and the closing. And the closing can be done, with a notary or depending on the country on how it's done. So some countries they have e-signature, some don't. So all these nuances you have to learn, like say 20% of the exception, but 80% is the same. So anybody out there that is like, I would love to, I'm curious, but I don't know how, it looks too big, I don't want to travel every single month. You don't have to. You can do international real estate from your house by understanding and getting educated and then sending those referrals abroad and making that extra money. So that to me was that was the framework of people understanding that it's not that difficult. It's possible, but you have to study too, because you don't want to recommend something that is not viable, it's not good, it's not compliant.
Yeah. So, out of curiosity, just because I love international travel myself, and I love going to different countries. And I don't mean to put you on the spot with this question as well, too. But out of all the countries you have visited and talked to, as far as like different agents, stuff like that, from like for like an American citizen, like what countries do you find are the hardest to potentially buy in, or which countries do you find are the easiest to buy it? And that might be kind of a dumb question from someone who's not very experienced with it. But if I wanted to go look and buy in a different country, which ones are typically the easiest and which ones are typically the hardest that you've experienced?
Sure. No. I myself, I visited I think I'm in my 38th country right now. But that was like fun and work. But consciously, like since I started my research 4 years ago, I think about 20 countries, we got it down to like, what is the buying process? Who do we know and how we work there and everything else. So we can provide a service or a consultation to clients or agents on what would be the best way to get their career started as an agent or where they can move to as a client. So for the legal part of things, it's super important that you connect with somebody local because you cannot Google certain things. You cannot ChatGPT certain things. Many things are done in paper for in countries, and they're registered in the city, and sometimes that sale is not recorded to the online world, let's say. So that is a deed that is reserved, and because of privacy issues in, let's say, Mexico, you don't want to disclose the name of the buyer because there are some countries that are more corrupted than others. So you don't want to maybe know somebody that you don't want to let people know that you have a $3 million home in this place because maybe it's a financial risk you get exposed. But the easiest to me has been Mexico, despite of every single thing that sometimes the paperwork, the bureaucracy, and everything like that might be a little extra time, from buying in the US. But Mexico is the easiest for Americans because it's the proximity, we're next to each other. And Mexicans are very embracing from the culture from anywhere in the world. And if you want to stay longer, they let you. So it's not like they kick you out of the country. I did my residency like that. And it's like in the US, if you pass your visa time, they kick you out and they ban you from the country probably. In Mexico, if you overstay your period, like 6 months, they give you a residency if you process it. So I'm like, hell, for sure, I'll take a residency, I'll stay here for longer than 6 months. So I think Mexico, I have found myself to be the easiest and it's my favorite country to sell and to promote. Then DR has also some benefits as well. And also, that's why we talk about those main markets for the Caribbean side of things. If people like the beach, probably you will agree with me. But if you're like a mountain kind of person, maybe you want something colder, somewhere like, something different. Portugal has been the second destination that makes it easier for Americans to buy. Spain too, but there's more bureaucracy. So, and then it's more expensive too than Portugal sometimes, depending on where you go. Those are kind of the easiest spots. Colombia is very friendly as well with investors, and you can buy more space for less money in Colombia. Costa Rica has become very pricey now because now they cater to US, so it's kind of like the summer home of many Americans. So at that point, you have to just kind of get used to paying kind of US prices. But Mexico and Colombia is still very reasonable. Dominican Republic as well. And the hardest I found has been Asia. And Asia has been in the process of research. I think people like Bali because they remember Bali, the Philippines as well. But in certain countries and even the Maldives, you can buy there, but you don't never own the land. So is you do a land lease for maybe 20, 30, or 50 years, depending on the country. But you can own the property on top of it, but the land you don't. You have to renew your lease every 50 years, let's say, which, we don't live longer than 100 years. So maybe you renew twice and then your kids renew it. But then it's kind of like that is in the back of your head. Like, what happens if I don't renew? What happens if the government wants to seize that? Like, that's kind of like the one thing that I think Americans will think, well, I want a title, I want to own this thing. But if you don't fully own it, maybe it's always like, well, maybe I don't want to own it at all, So then that's kind of the market that I've seen more people, they love it. They go there and they're like, wait, I cannot own it fully. Maybe I'll go to Mexico. Like the beaches are amazing in Mexico. So to me, I was like, I don't need to go too far to go to a nice beach. So that has been kind of the feel for it. In Europe, I feel like in the center of Europe, not that many Americans buy because Europe is expensive and it's tiny. So you get a smaller place, and usually Americans like bigger homes, right? So Mexico is kind of a good fit. Dominican Republic is a good fit. You can expand Colombia too. But when you go to Europe and you have to shrink your size, unless you want to be in the city center, then you might as well rent, go for Airbnb, go for vacation. And the taxes are much higher too. I mean, kind of like the US price and taxes. And then Mexico, the property taxes are so cheap that you don't even feel it. Like literally the reason that I like Mexico is because of the property taxes, and Portugal is the same with property taxes. And just to give you an example and a comparison for my tax bill, and I always give this example because it's the most clear, the one I know, and I have paid out of pocket, I see it every year, is my condo in Chicago, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 1,300 square feet, is $7,000 a year, which is not horrible, but it's expensive for, I can do something else with 7,000, And our place in Mexico, it has one less room, but it's 2 every 6 months. So $444 per year.
Oh, wow.
So 7,000, let's say 500 per year. So then you can see how much money we pay out of in taxes because we have to. I mean, we are just trained to be that way, right? Like we just don't think about it. We need to pay our property taxes.
Mm.
But what if you can pay like 10 times less? I mean, I definitely would love to own a property where my fixed costs are less, unless of course the property is paying for itself, is a producing, property that is a rental income. And of course, that justifies it. But if not, if it's just your home, it's just fixed costs out of your pocket. Hopefully the school system is good and all that good stuff, right? But I mean, I don't have any kids, so to me, anywhere is good. So I'm not looking for certain requirements. So those are the numbers that we always compare with people. Like if you were going to retire or if you want to just lower your fixed costs, a little bit, think outside the box. There's so many options out there in the world to just have similar lifestyles to many areas in the US and also proximity to the beach if you choose to, community. So you can have it all. It just depends on if you have curiosity and adventurous mindset.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. I want to take a little bit back to EXP because you kind of mentioned it about connecting with other agents in different countries from EXP. And one of the things that a lot of people may not know about EXP is it's one of the largest global brokerages. And I think correct if I'm wrong, I think they're in 22 countries now, and I think they're announcing 6 more countries this year or something like that. So. Which is super exciting. I always love when a new country comes out because I'm always thinking to myself, okay, where can I go next? Because I love international travel as well too. But I do want to take it back a little bit to when you first joined EXP. And obviously you said you found the platform first before you kind of started really getting into real estate. Obviously, both of us are part of the same organization within EXP. But when you found EXP, how did you find EXP? And then also, what made you decide to join the organization? Because we're part of the Wolfpack, with Mike Sharp. What made you decide to join the Wolfpack? Like, was it just you found them, or did you do your research first before making a decision?
So I wasn't an agent before, and I became an agent because I discovered EXP, and I discovered EXP because my need for the international piece. But when I was joining EXP at the beginning, I joined a group in Chicago that was not the Wolfpack. But I had to leave EXP 6 months, and then I wanted to join this group, which is the Wolfpack now. But that took some research, as you said. At the beginning, I didn't know anything about brokerages. Let's say I was just like, whatever gives me an international. I mean, you don't have to take much convincing. And then I went for my license. So the group I joined in Chicago was more localized, very very local based. So when I wanted to do global or marketing or content, I couldn't find the support there because they didn't focus on that. And I mean, they focus on what they focus on, and that's really good. But to me, I was kind of like I feel like the black sheep. I was like, I want to do this and that. What about this and that? And they're like, well, you can go ask your upline or this and that. But I couldn't find the support locally. So then at that point, I was like, I don't want to leave EXP. I already at that point had about 16 people in my downline before
Mhm.
I left. And I was like, if I leave now, I'm going to lose my downline and rev share and everything else. But you know what? As you're in the network, if you're in the world just real estate in general, if you're in the world of real estate, you'll see Mike and Vane everywhere, right? Like on YouTube. And if the more you get familiar with the EXP community, you're seeing certain people that are standing out more than others. They're doing more. They're more driven. They're more like they know what they want and they go and get it.
Mhm.
So that was my feel. I was like, I love that. I align with that, and I want to learn YouTube.
Mhm.
So I had to do the hard decision to leave EXP for 6 months. I went to EXP jail for 6 months, and then I came back. But then this time it was more intentional. I was like, now I know where I want to be as a company, and I want to pick this group because it aligns with what I want to do long term. And in the other side, I would have to create everything from scratch. And I mean, who has time for that? I wanted to just start operating, go, 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 instead of building everything from scratch, testing if it works. And I'm like, no, I just want to jump on the train that is moving fast. So I did, and then I did my research. I talked to two big sponsors, and then I decided to join the Wolfpack. And in the Wolfpack, I joined under Banner Monroe, who does all the content in Spanish. And because I was like, my agents are mostly Spanish speaking, so they need that support. And then Mike, which was like English and Spanish strong leader. So I was like, perfect. So this is what I want to align with. And all my kids, the same, my downline can have all the resources. And at that point, it was very, very clear to me, what path I wanted to take. And it's been since, when I left full time, like I came back to EXP January 2024. So I left corporate at the beginning of 2023. I changed downlines by at the beginning of 2024. So it's been a year and a half with the Wolfpack by now. And I lost my downline back then, but two of them came back with me. And right now I rebuilt it to 27 agents. So although I lost some, I think the good ones are, came back. And I not only like stay there, but we expanded it. And it's been a work in the making, a year and a half. It's not a huge number, but I've been attracting agents that align with our culture, because I think that if we don't align, if you don't like your sponsor, or you don't align with your values, even, I think that will not be a long-term good fit. So to me, it's super important that as we get to know each other and as we sponsor agents or co-sponsor agents, that we're in the same mindset that, okay, we're gonna run together, we're going at this pace. If you're not at this pace, you might stay behind, you might not like it, and you might leave anyway. So might as well don't join. So, but if you are aligned to this and we're going 100 miles an hour, we're gonna go far. So then that's kind of like more intentionally who I wanted to onboard in the team. So I've been slower at onboarding, but very intentional. So now our team is like a tribe. So now we're the unicorn tribe. You'll see us all our shirts in Miami. So then at that point, then you can feel our culture as a unicorn. We're very hippie-like, we're very like straightforward, we're very hardworking, but at the same time, we have a soul. We love to help people. We love to educate people. We will do anything for anybody for free as long as it provides some education. And I think our team, our group organization for Unicorn has, adjusted that behavior to the Wolfpack. So we're kind of aligning the same pillar, of who we want to be and where we stand for. I want to do the right thing for our clients and ethically, regardless of where we are in the world, because that's the most important thing.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. I always tell people, a lot of EXP is obviously a great company, and you kind of like, talked about a lot of the great traits that EXP has. However, one of the things I've always said to a lot of different agents is that the experience you get with EXP is going to be highly dependent on the organization you join, because not every organization offers the exact same stuff. And so it's important to make sure that you do research to make sure you're joining the right organization that aligns with your visions, like your goals, what you're trying to do. Otherwise, you might make a mistake, and then you have to, kind of like what you did, leave for 6 months or a year, and then come back and find another different organization. So, it's very important, even if you're with EXP4 and maybe didn't have, weren't part of the right organization, to really do that research to make sure it aligns with kind of your goals and everything like that. And so one thing I will also point out too is down below this video, I will have some links if you want to connect with Nathaly or you want to connect with myself. You want to look at what partnering with us within the Wolfpack looks like. Don't be afraid to schedule a call. Don't be afraid to schedule a Zoom meeting, email, call us, whatever makes sense for you. If someone wants to reach out to you because they're interested in either international real estate themselves, they want to buy and sell, they want to look at, what that looks like to buy in a different country, or B, if they're an agent that's looking at partnering with yourself within the Wolfpack, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So they can text me. I can leave my phone number is 888-483-7779. And that goes, to make sure that we can get back to you, because sometimes when I get messages I love getting messages in Instagram too, but it just goes flooded. It's just insane. And the amount of that traffic is too high. So you can text us directly for sure. You can book time in my Calendly personally, or we can book time together and we can talk more about the details on what it will look like. And if you align, if we can align together in this effort, I would love to have more people, that we can co-sponsor together because they align with those values. You guys have a very good upline as well. So for production, and I love that. Sometimes we can complement each other. So definitely reach out.
Yeah, the co-sponsorship thing is obviously a huge deal, and when EXP rolled that out, it's really nice because that's kind of like one of the ways that you can get, be in multiple different lines, at the same time. Obviously the sponsor, you get everything, above who the sponsor is, but if there's someone that offers some sort of different proposition value and you co-sponsor as well too, that's definitely another way you can get some even additional training than what you're already getting, so it's definitely a great call out there as far as like co-sponsorship is concerned. So Nathaly, again, I wanted to thank you for coming on today's podcast. It's definitely been a pleasure speaking with you. I might be reaching out to you to figure out how I can buy a home in Mexico because it sounds super exciting to me.
We should be
But
neighbors.
what was that?
We should be neighbors in Riviera Maya.
Exactly. Well, I'm in Arizona, so it's only a few hours. I don't know where in Mexico. I have to look at the map, but definitely something that is interesting to me. So again, thank you for coming on. Pleasure speaking with you. And again, if you want to, contact Nathaly about looking what a partnership looks like, definitely reach out to her below. Thanks again, Nathaly.
Thank you so much. And FYI, we have a tour if anybody's curious in December, a scouting trip. So you guys can come as an agent or as a buyer or send your buyers. And that's the experience that we get, with international piece. It's not only theory, it's also practice on the ground. Thank you so much, Scott.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks. Have a good day.